Hey, welcome back to another Get Geekish podcast. We're going to get dirty today. We're talking about dirty song lyrics, but not just dirty songs, but a lot of songs that we know from our past that in hindsight you look back at it or read the lyrics and go, oh, wow, that's some controversial subject matter in those songs. And we do got to be careful because we keep this as a quote-unquote family podcast and gets broadcast on AIM Student Radio, so we're going to have to not say a lot of words, but you'll get the gist of it.
I think being that we used to be DJs and couldn't curse on air, I think we're pretty set.
We're pretty good at censoring ourselves, so don't you worry. No need for earmuffs.
Right. But what kind of brought this up was the famous controversial song Whap. Now, we're not going to say what it is because we're family friendly. But if you don't know what it is, Google it. I don't know. But the song Whap, made a whole bunch of people go up in arms, and they're like, oh, that's so bad. I can't believe that song. And in my head, I'm like, what? There's far worse songs.
Yeah, it's bad if you're going to play it in front of a bunch of preschoolers, but yeah, for the historical perspective of music, it's not on that echelon that's that much worse than other things that have put out there for it. My first thought when I read the lyrics of the song, because I heard it was getting popular, listened to it, I'm like, I did kind of a dumb song, looked at the lyrics, got a little taken aback and wide-eyed, and my first thought was, those poor saps who have to rewrite the lyrics for Kids Bop are hosed.
Right? What would they? That's my wild angry pony. There we go.
Yeah, wild angry pony. Get them up.
Oh my God. But another thing that made me think of that is on Reels and TikTok, they're using a snippet of an Eminem song. And a lot of people are using it, and some people are using it because they don't know what it means and they haven't listened to the whole song, so they're using it like as just for different clips. But you listen to the whole song and you're like, oh my God, that's nasty. And it's pretty out there. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna spell it because if I say it, it'll sound like a curse word. It's F-A-C-K, just in case you want to listen to that. So it's Eminem, F-A-C-K. That's the name of that song. And then, of course, we keep going back to, that ever famous song, My Neck, My Back. Then I can't finish the song, but that one was popular for a while. And the Teaches of Peaches, and then there's a song that's called Put It in Your Mouth, and that one is just, it's just, to me, I was like, I don't know. And then, the 90s were just chock full of songs,
And it feels it feels like almost everybody wants to jump on quote unquote their genre of music, and so mine wasn't as bad as that. You look at all the rap songs there, but you go to any genre and you can find a group of songs. I've got a whole list of ones like songs that came out in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. You look at the lyrics, you're like, oh, I need some soap.
Well, and I think the thing too is like with the 50s, the 60s, that music, it's how they presented it. It's this fun little sock pop song. And you're like, yeah, and then you listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh,
did they just say what I think? They did. They did. Okay.
One thing that popped up about that is, Run Around Sue. That song is upbeat and poppy, and then you listen to the lyrics, you're like, oh, that's okay.
That's not quite what I was going with there. And I think my parents were one, too. I remember they used to go off in the early 90s music because it was just so obscene and perverse and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just examples. I'm like, Lou Reed's Walking the Wild Side. Every dude in his 40s, 50s, 60s hears a song like, oh, yeah, that's such a great feel-good song. You're like, that song's all about picking up somebody on the side of the road that has a surprise for you. Just look it up. I know Walking the Wild Side's a fun, happy beat, but if you're going to be saying your music's not dirty. Chuck Berry had My Ding-a-Ling. Oh, yeah, that was totally just about a toy they sold in stores. That's all that was. Uh-huh. No. Uh-huh. Sure it was, Pops.
Sure it was. I don't know.
The
Well, there was another one. Sorry, go ahead.
The Toppers had a song back in 1954 called "Baby Let Me Bang Your Box." You know, it was like the box for toys and stuff, right? I mean, it's not a big deal.
I don't think I've heard that. Do you have the lyrics?
Some of them. When my baby had a party the other night, the party was getting dead. I spied a piano in the corner, looked at my baby and said, "Baby, let me bang your box," and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I've been banging since I was a kid of 4. A kid of 4, I've been banging until I can't bang no more.
So that one I think is just interpreted different, right? Like that's just a generational thing. Like he was meaning like, let's get this party bopping, and I don't know.
No.
Well, I mean, okay, so
I mean, you go back to those songs like Chubby Checker, his songs about the twist. Those songs weren't about dancing. There happened to be a dance that went with it.
I think he made up the dance to go with it.
Come
on and do the twist.
There was a whole lot of pelvic things going on with that song.
Yeah, well, one that popped in my head too the other night actually. So, my cousin, when she was in middle school, I want to say, she did a talent show thing to The Wanderer. You know, I'm the wanderer. I go around, 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 around. You know, when you're a kid, you don't think anything of it. So she did the talent show. And then I was listening to the lyrics of that the other day because I was like, I haven't heard the song forever. I'm going to post it on her wall. And I was sitting there listening. I was like, huh, this is a guy that's running around and getting lucky wherever he can.
Mm-hmm.
But he has that one where he tears open his shirt. He has got a rosy on his chest. Yes, he's a wanderer.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I think that's my favorite part of the ones that they can slip in these meanings and innuendos in the song that nobody even realizes or thinks about. But then, you know, after the fact, you're like, oh, you got away with that one. Even The Knack, My Sharona. You know what that one was all about?
Sharona.
It was about a 17-year-old girl named Sharona Alperin. Never gonna stop, give it up, such a dirty mind, always get it up for the touch of the younger kind.
Mm.
That's prison material right there.
That's cringe. That's
that's do not pass go, do not collect $200. Like, you're not allowed to be around 300 yards of kids anymore. Like,
to use our podcast from last week, that's cringe material. That's
super cringe, no cap.
Dude, well, I mean, and then you look at what, you know, Brandy, the song Brandy, she's a fine girl. What a good wife she will be. You know, that's basically saying that, yeah, she's a good wife. But if you listen to the rest of the song, she's basically a Port of Call woman.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like,
How many people of us were in middle school, high school, college about the time the Bloodhound Gang got popular, and we're trying to convince friends and loved ones that no, they're just talking about mammals like on the TV shows. How you watch Discovery Channel and you know how animals make babies. That's all they're talking about.
That one, there's no way, man. I mean, you listen
but people tried to convince their parents that so they wouldn't get their CD cracked in half and thrown in the trash can.
Love, the kind you clean up with the mop and bucket like the lost catacombs of Egypt. Yeah, I know that whole song. Yes,
yeah.
That's how I got my wife.
Couple of their whole.
Just go.
We'll just roll right past that. I mean, they had a few albums, like 2 or 3 albums in a row that were all just ridiculously over the top. Some of them funny, some of them went too far. I mean, they had an entire album that was called Foxtrot Uniform Charlie Kilo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just
That's
tried to
the
work
phonetic alphabet for spelling out something.
Yeah. Now you know. And even Britney Spears. Do you remember the big fiasco when If You Seek Amy came out?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's her just phonetically spelling out a bad word in her song. Just say it real fast a couple times over and over. You'll get it.
This turned into Mad Libs, or not Mad Libs.
And I heard that on a radio station somewhere back in the day. I'm like, wait a minute. She can't say that.
I mean, look at... So that's the thing, too, is like even... So 90s pushed it, you know, to a degree. So... I mean, let's go back to what the 70s you had. I mean, some songs were just blatantly obvious, like Cocaine. You're just like, obviously we know what this song's about, and it was played on the radio constantly. It was a hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 80s were a little bit more, some of them were a little bit more hidden. And then you have like a Virgin, of course, a lot of Madonna songs.
Yeah, for
And
people
then,
that weren't alive back in the 80s, when Madonna's Like a Virgin came out, it caused a huge controversial stir of being able to release such a trashy song about such a touchy subject. You look at that compared to today's standards of music and lyrics, you're like, we could probably kids bop this one.
well, I mean, even with Prince too. You listen to some of those, and then that's what cracks me up about those types of songs is the parents are like, oh, these are just too risque, and then like you said, you go back to Chuck Berry and everything like that. You're like, is it? I mean, just because she's spelling it out for you, is it? But anyway, we go to the '90s, and we get Marcy Playground, Sex and Candy. We get
We also got the birth of the explicit content label that started getting put on albums when they had explicit. So then the ones that didn't want that label learned to be a little more creative with how they worked in their sleazy lyrics, I guess we'll call it. And then the people that said, you know what, we're going to get an explicit content, like we can go all overboard, we can put whatever we want on here, and went off the deep end.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing too, is you listen to a lot of just even like the radio hits. You're like, you're getting away with a lot of stuff. There was a lot of like R&Bs that got away with it, and of course you have Little Kim from the late 90s, early 2000s was just all about you listen, you're like, oh my gosh. Ooh. But you listen to, even you got the Backstreet Boys, you got 98 Degrees, you got NSYNC. You listen to some of those lyrics.
All those songs were about hooking up with young fans. All of them.
Most all of them, yeah. And then you listen to some of the Britney Spears songs, and then, obviously she went a little bit more forward with it, with like, what is it, Slave? Is that the one that she had the boa constrictor in the video?
Yeah.
And then Oops, I Did It Again, and then Christina Aguilera with Dirty, where all of a sudden everybody's like, oh my God, I can't believe that they went from Genie in a Bottle to something. Like, did you listen to the lyrics of Genie in a Bottle?
I got news for you.
Right? I mean, it's one of those ones where I think this is just going to be something that keeps going. Because, in the 50s, people were offended by Elvis's music and the way he danced. And going,
oh, yeah, he shakes his hips on the stage. You can see the outline of his man things. That's. We can't have that on stage.
Oh, my God. But, and then you had, our grandparents or parents, depending on how old you are, in the 50s and 60s, who loved that type of music, followed it and everything like that, and did the whole defending thing. And then you have the next generation, their kids, trying to defend 80s and 90s music, and then so on and so forth. I think it's just going to be a repeating cycle. And yes, some of it is just blatantly obvious, and I don't think... No, there's kind of a radio edit of Whap, which just sounds weird. But, that wet angry donkey or pony just
well, there's some that have radio to degrade. You remember when Enrique Iglesias was the big heartthrob super sexy pop star, and he had that song that came out called I'm Loving You Tonight. Oh, that one is such a beautiful song. Do you know what the real version? No, there's the real version of the song that has it doesn't have the word loving at all.
I know, I have that version. It's great.
It is a good song, but I distinctly remember talking to a couple radio listeners back in the day who were playing that song that were just so in love with it because Enrique was just this, romantic guy. I'm like, I want you to go find the real version of this song. What are you talking about? Like, he's not loving anybody. He's doing other stuff.
Well,
and CeeLo Green too. Thank You from CeeLo. Hilarious, great song. But Thank You is not the lyrics of the actual song. Actual song is very angry two-word explicit thing. Yeah. And that became a chart-topping #1 hit with the edited version, and most people had no idea that...
Forget you. Well,
forget you, not thank you. Forget you. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, I got you. Even with the Enrique song, when you're listening to the edited version where he's like, "Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude, but tonight I'm loving you," you're like, "Oh, man, that's not really rude." Then you listen to the real version, you're like, "Oh, you're not meaning to be rude because tonight you." Oh, I get you.
And I still have to look things up once in a while. I'm not afraid to admit that I have to pull up some Urban Dictionary and do some research sometimes when I hear a song. I'm like, what are they talking about? First time I heard that DNC song, the Cake by the Ocean. Like, Cake by the Ocean? It sounds like a terrible idea. Looked up. Oh, Cake by the Ocean. Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you even go back to what Ludacris was early 2000s, right?
Sounds about right.
Something like that. And he had hits where, I wanna lick you from your head to your toes. I wanna woo. That song was on the radio. You're like, all right. I mean,
there's a lot of stuff in the 90s, a lot of Eminem songs that when you hear the unedited version, you're like, who in the right mind had the time to edit these things out? Like, there's good 2/3 of this song we're not allowed to play on commercial radio.
Well, it's also funny, too, our station, I wouldn't say it was an offender of it, but we would play songs, right? And we would edit out the rap parts. So when we give away the CDs or whatever, or you listen to the real version, it's like, listen, all of a sudden, bam, here comes the rap part. You're like, oh my goodness. What did he just say?
I need to take this back. That was one of the other ones I forgot. It's Bryan Adams. Everything I do it for you. How about that Summer of '69 song? That was just like an anthem of my youth. Like,
nope.
Probably not.
I mean,
if it was, you're not telling your kids about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up. I forgot about that one. Because it was the summer of '69. I bet it was.
And there's a lot of ones that don't even hide anything, that they're just super explicit sexual songs and stuff like that. But it's even "Baby Got Back" from Sir Mix-a-Lot, when that came out in the late 80s, early 90s, something like that. People were in uproar about it. I mean, granted, his video did have big giant butts they were dancing on, and that was kind of the start of what they call them, the fly girls, and all the videos and stuff like that were really tight, sequiny spandex thing and shook and jiggled everything they had. So it was controversial and pushing things forward at the time. But when you look back at "Baby Got Back" contextually versus other things that are coming out now, is it that obscenely worse than anything else that's come out in the last 10 years? No. Okay, saying the girl's got a butt. Okay.
Well, it's really funny, too, that, I mean, we both know because we've done weddings and everything like that, but like "Baby Got Back" is requested at weddings. It's requested at dances. You play that, everybody's like, oh, my anaconda don't want to let you got buns, huh? Everybody just gets into it. You're like, like you said, back in the day, it was like, how could he say that?
I played music at a wedding, and one guy had very, very different families. One was a very urban East Coast family, and the wife's family was a super conservative Midwestern family got together. So it was definitely got to try to play that, appease the early crowd first and the later crowd later. And they erupted because like, it's time to put on the good music now. After we played a few Merle Haggard hits and Willie Nelson songs, and put on Eminem's "Shake That." And his entire half of the dance floor erupted on the dance floor, all just having a blast, running a dance over there. And they hear the lyrics like, there's moms and sons dancing and dads and daughters dancing, and Eminem, and Nate Dogg, I feel weird.
Please. Well, I mean, if you listen to the unedited version of that too, it's
yeah, well, it was the unedited version.
Ooh. Ooh.
That's why I was a little scared to play it at the same time. But he's like, well, if you say so, okay.
I don't. Do you think we will ever get out of this trend of?
Oh no. Because
you think it's just going to keep pushing the envelope?
I think it's the same reason that I get a kick out of when people can hide the stuff in there. Every new generation that comes along, people and artists are doing the exact same thing. They're figuring a way to sing about something that is an inside joke that, oh, yeah, we sang about that. Isn't that cool? And people have to look it up and can't figure it out, or people jump to their own assumptions because the other songs that you really could make a case for songs that are supposedly super dirty, but you could logistically go through all those lyrics and be like, you just want it to be about that, but you could take these words and just put them in a different context and it would make perfect sense.
Like the wild the Wild Hotel California debate of where people think it's about drugs and other people think it's about hell and other people think it's about this. It's, I guess, if you you can break down, unless it's blatantly obvious, like The Bad Touch by Bloodhound Gang.
Or they can go back and ask the actual writers. I mean, look at Meatloaf. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. And it was confirmed. He just said in an interview that it was about that.
And if you don't know what that is, Google it. Man, but if there's gonna be a lot of questions that people might have after this podcast.
Yeah, I have a feeling the Urban Dictionary search terms in our area might be shooting real up right now.
Right.
I did see a good another one of Dexy's Midnight Runners. Come on, Eileen. That's another one that's a whole other thing. But I saw a post of somebody made a Halloween costume of that song. Mm-hmm. Real entertaining.
Well, I mean, like some of these don't necessarily. So some of these might not have.
Greased Lightning from Grease.
Oh yeah, that one
wasn't the car. Wasn't
no. The car. Well, that's the thing is like a lot of these might not have been overly sexual back in the day, or maybe not might have meant that, but since slang has kind of evolved and everything like that, call back to our last podcast, some things have now a different term. So when you listen to a song, you're like, oh, and you're like, I don't think he means it that way, but
Another one that makes me giggle when I hear it, because a lot of times I'll hear it at people's religious get-togethers and churches and stuff like that, of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. Oh, it's such a beautiful spiritual song. From the lyrics, remember when I moved in you, the holy drove was moving too, and every breath we drew was hallelujah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
You can really hear the J in that one. Peacock from Katy Perry, Semi-Charmed Life from Third Eye Blind, No Diggity from Blackstreet, Candyman from Christina Aguilera, Candy Shop from 50 Cent, Oh What a Night from the Four Seasons, Cookie Jar from the Gym Class Heroes, Boom 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 from the Venga Boys. 2 weeks in a row, Venga Boys on our podcast. How cool is that? Afternoon Delight from the Starland Vocal Band.
Oh my God! So that one right there, Sky Rockets in Flight. Boo!
And that one, that was like a Partridge Family song. Like everybody, let's put it together.
Everybody sings that one, and you're like, and it got really weird because once I was old enough to figure out what that song was about, and it came on the radio, and my parents were singing it, I was like, no. We could. Yeah. Well, and the thing is like you said, a lot of people request some of these songs. They're like, oh yeah, play Candy Shop 50 Cent. You're like, play the birthday song from Katy Perry.
For your daughter? Really?
Play Lollipop from Lil Wayne.
And I remember some of the songs that couldn't even be made today. Because do you remember, was it Ice Cube or Ice T? Ice Cube, right? No, Ice-T had the metal band called Body Count.
Oh,
and they had the Cop Killer song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one that if that came out today, I feel like that would be probably more controversial now than it was back then, if that's possible. Two Live Crew, one of those bands that was literally pushing every envelope they could find to just make everything almost uncomfortable. I was a teenage boy when I first heard those songs, and I was still uncomfortable listening to some of them. You're like, he said that again and again and again.
I just keep getting the Ice Cube song in my head of like, I can do it, put your back into it. You can do it, put your back into it. Do it. I'm just like, I mean, that one was played on the radio. It's funny because you look back and you're like, some of these, like you said, a lot of these were played on the radio. They're edited. And you hear the full one, you're like, ooh, that's something. So basically, I guess the whole gist of this podcast is stop getting offended at music because it's not any different than back in the day. It just has a different beat, and the lyrics might be a little bit more in your face. But
yeah, and I think I'm going to say if you're going to be offended by music, maybe you should just there's plenty of places to find your own music for it. Because it's going to be out there. There's, with everybody's access things, you're not going to be able to go out on a vigilant quest to stop anybody from hearing a song because you think it's inappropriate. Because whatever you think inappropriate, somebody else probably thinks is hilarious.
What about the, what is it, Fits in the Tantrums? I can make your hands clap.
Oh, yeah, it's guitar.
Everybody's like, oh, yeah, I can make your hands clap. And, you see little kids like singing that. It's Kids Bop, and you're like, that song is not about what you think it is.
Mm-hmm. I've got pulled up the list from BuzzFeed of the 17 dirtiest song lyrics from the last 10 years. See if we agree with them. Talk Dirty from Jason Derulo. Anaconda from Nicki Minaj. Gorilla by Bruno Mars. Partition by Beyonce. Or Nah by Ty Dolla $ign. Whistle from Flo Rida. Side to Side from Ariana Grande. Bickenhead by Cardi B. Good Kisser by Usher. Big Ol' Freak by Megan Thee Stallion. Truffle Butter from Nicki Minaj. Yeah, I had to.
Remember
that was another one I had to look up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, remember we were playing Cards Against Humanity and that came up?
Yep, sure do. That was a learning experience for me. Oh boy. My Type by Saweetie, and Touchin' Lovin' by Trey Songz, Woohoo by Christina Aguilera, Deep Throat by Cupcake, Dancing in Circles by Lady Gaga, Motivation by Kelly Rowland. That's what BuzzFeed says are the dirtiest songs of the last decade.
So that, I was gonna say, that's the last decade. There's definitely earlier than that are. I mean, remember when I Want to Take a Ride on Your Disco Stick from the Lady Gaga came out, and everybody's like,
Poker Face.
Yeah. Like, guys.
And it's music. I mean, honestly, like it. I'm one of those people that doesn't necessarily bother me. I don't want to have tons of explicit lyrics like playing around My Little or something like that. But things happen. I just explain to it, talk about it. Like, all right, yeah, it's a word, it's a thing, whatever. But most of the time, if I'm listening to a song, maybe it's the radio day training. If I don't want to hear something I don't liking, I can just kind of turn it off in my head and it just doesn't exist. You're like, I don't like this song. And then one of the other 19 songs floating in my head just plays over it while it's going on. And
right. And then you realize you're like, oh my gosh, I'm at work already? What happened?
Yeah, I still can't understand people that don't have a brain like mine because there's literally, we've talked about this, multiple songs going all the time at any given moment. Well, there's a song stuck in my head, or which one you want? Like this one, this one, this one. But other people, from what I've talked to, there's never music in their head. And when there is a song there, it gets there and just gets played on repeat and they can't handle it because there's a song playing. And mine's like a late 90s roller rink and a sleepover, like mixed into one all the time.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm pretty sure like I have a jukebox up there that just cycles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm also the one, I bet people get super annoyed in the car because they'll go to the radio stations or CDs or MP3 players, and I hear 5-10 seconds of song, like, oh, I love this song, and then switch to the next one. Like, why'd you hear that? Well, because I heard it, so I heard it. I heard the beginning part, so in my head, I heard the whole song. Like, okay, what's next? Give me another one. Give me another one. Give me another one.
Yeah, my wife gets annoyed at me because I do that too. Unless unless Bad Touch comes on, and then boom, I got to sing it and impress her. But yeah.
Two more that a lot of people don't get. Sweet Caroline from Neil Diamond.
Ba, ba, ba.
Mm-hmm, that's another good one. And the fan favorite, the Macarena. It is about a girl cheating on a guy with two of his friends.
Hey, Macarena.
All right.
On that note.
So, dirty songs. See, we went through it. We didn't say anything too offensive, I hope. I apologize, Ames, if we did, but you'll clean it up. But what kind of songs do you think are some of the most hidden gems of dirty songs in history? Let us know at Geekish. The song that you get your little joy out of hearing it in commercial radio stations or places at supermarkets, knowing exactly what the song's really about, but the general public just thinks it's a happy, fun song. Let us know, because I need to add to my playlist too, because now I'm going to go make a dirty song playlist.
Sitting there going through the King Supers, getting your groceries. I can make your hands clap.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us again this week, and happy listening, happy Urban Dictionarying. Hopefully you learned something new today, and I apologize for that at the same time.
If you learn what truffle butter is, blame Beano.
Do not blame. No. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. All right. We'll talk at you next week.